Time to take the Red Bull Ring by the horns as the Grand Prix of Austria kicks off what promises to be a momentous second half in the MotoGP World Championship. The picture postcards Styrian Mountains provide the striking backdrop for Chapter 11 as Ducati look to be on cloud 9 with a 9th win at the spectacular Spielberg track. It's time to race in MotoGP. So the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg back on the Grand Prix calendar 8 years ago in 2016. Tricky but tight layout, just 11 corners packed into a 4.34 kilometre layout. 810 metre start finish straight, a sharp climb up the hill into the heavy braking zone for turn 1. 8 right corners, 3 of them left. 3 left-handers include turn 6 and 7. In the infield section. The new chicane that was arrived in 2022 completes Sector 1. Heavy braking in 3 and 4 in Sector 2. And are we going to get more MotoGP drama, more last lap fireworks in the Premier Class through turns 9 and 10? 1, 2A and 4 are the most severe braking points here at Spielberg. And turn 1 pretty stressful on the tyres as well. Overtaking hotspots, plenty of them with the hard braking zones 1, 2A, 2B, 3, 9 and 10. This was Marc Marquez toughing it out with Jack Miller, of course, then on the Repsol through the chicane. Coming up next then in MotoGP. Aleix Espargaro denies Ducati a sprint podium clean sweep and is aiming to produce another sensational ride in Spielberg. Marc Marquez has starred in some classic Spielberg thrillers, but can the Spaniard come out on top after 3 close calls? Riding through the pain barrier at the Red Bull Ring, Jorge Martin aims for a first Grand Prix win in 6 from pole. And Pecco Bagnaia is a red-hot favourite to continue Ducati's hot winning streak in Styria from the front row. So it was Jorge Martin, 3 points clear in the World Championship that led the field away in the 14-lap Tissot sprint yesterday from pole position. A thrilling first lap saw 3-4 overtakes between himself and Pecco Bagnaia. Alex Marquez crashed early on in the chicane. Jorge Martin, having taken the shortcut and not given back 1 second, saw him come through the long lap penalty. He eventually took the checkered flag in second place though. A safe second blown by Marc Marquez as he crashed out for the 3rd sprint in the last 4. But it was Pecco Bagnaia who continues his love affair with the Red Bull Ring here in Spielberg. 2nd on the grid, 1st in the Tissot sprint, and perhaps more importantly, back at the top of the MotoGP World Championship. It is tight at the top, it could not be closer. Martin versus Bagnaia. They are both locked together on 250 points as they get set to lock horns in the battle at the Red Bull Ring. Round 11 then we are set for in the MotoGP World Championship. The ambient temperature has crept up to 25 degrees, certainly a lot cooler than what we saw on Friday afternoon and yesterday afternoon for that 14-lap Tissot sprint won by Pecco Bagnaia by over 4 seconds, the biggest winning margin in the new sprint era. Still off in the distance, and we can't ignore them given how temperamental the weather can be in this part of gorgeous southeast Austria. Are some very heavy clouds, some grey and ominous looking clouds off on the horizon. Let's hope they stay there as we get the traditional and spectacular aero display above this Spielberg circuit. Always a special pre-race build-up here as we get set for what we hope will be another classic Spielberg battle. We've had some spectacular races in the past, haven't we? 2017, 2018, 2019, instant classics in the modern four-stroke MotoGP era. Andrea Dovizioso versus Marc Marquez, Jorge Lorenzo versus Marc Marquez. Now though, in the present at the Spielberg race, it's Marc Marquez versus Ducati's current crop of superstar riders, the top two in the World Championship. As Pecco Bagnaia, the race winner here in 2022, he did the double here 1 year ago, and he's firmly on course to complete the double once again. Matt Burton-Lewis still be in the commentary box, Simon Crafar down in pit lane as the Red Bull helicopter provides the fans here packed grandstands with a thrilling pre-race show as we then begin the countdown to round 11. I'll tell you what, I would not fancy being a passenger on that helicopter. No. Lewis, I'm nominating you for the Dorna seat on board that one next year. Me. Yeah, crikey. Not for the faint-hearted. That one, not for the faint-hearted, is this 4.34-kilometre Red Bull Ring circuit. As we mentioned, rather simple and basic in its look, but it poses one of the toughest challenges for riders and teams on the whole Grand Prix calendar. It is dominated by hard braking zones, which does present plenty of overtaking opportunities. It's also dominated by hard acceleration as well, from low gear out of the second gear turn 1, the first gear turn 3. It is all about managing the tyres, managing the grip, and being the millimetre precise, which is easier said than done over 28 laps. This was another key mistake, a mistake which has dropped Marc Marquez 71 points behind Pecco Bagnaia and Jorge Martin at the top of the World Championship, a third sprint DNF in the last 4, not capitalising on a rare front row start for the Gresini Racing Team Ducati. He felt though, Lewis, he felt fantastic on that GP23 and felt like he still had something late on for our world champion.
Yeah, we thought at this point in the sprint that Pecco Bagnaia was just managing this and was comfortably on his way to sprint victory. In the end, he was, but that was because Marc Marquez kind of left him with that free run. Marc Marquez was around a second and a half behind Pecco Bagnaia, but said he was saving, said he felt he had something extra for the end of the sprint. Sadly, we'll never get to find out just how much that was. Marc Marquez clearly looking relaxed as he looks to end his 1,029-day wait for a MotoGP victory. Wouldn't it be ironic if he ended that long wait for a victory at a circuit that he's never won at before? Yeah, Ducati have won 8 of our 10 Grand Prix here previously at the Red Bull Ring. Andrea Iannone, Andrea Dovizioso, Jorge Lorenzo, Jorge Martin and Pecco Bagnaia on Ducati's star-studded winning roster here at the Red Bull Ring. Can Marc Marquez get his name finally on a race-winning trophy here in Spielberg? He's had so many close calls. So many times he must have thought he'd beaten and ended Ducati's domination here at the Red Bull Ring. But it is 1,029 days since his last success. Of course, all eyes on a strengthened 5-strong Piera Mobility Group lineup here this weekend, led yesterday by Jack Miller, who had a super Saturday. Top Q1 with a brilliant lap, which actually would have qualified him, I think, on the front row of the grid. He qualified second row, 5th at the checker flag in the sprint, equaling his best result of the season so far, the top Piera Mobility Group rider. I wonder if Jack fancies a pop at the Ducati this afternoon. A big ask, Lewis, but signs that the old Miller was coming back. Well, he's just carrying a much better demeanour around him this weekend, with talk of his future now looking a little bit better. Jack Miller came into this weekend, or came into the Silverstone weekend, seemingly out of MotoGP. Very much looks in at the moment with talk of a Pramac Yamaha ride for next season, and Jack Miller has clearly brought that boosted morale into this Austrian Grand Prix weekend. As you say, a return to form of somewhat, finishing in 5th place. A tall order to take the fight to the Ducatis here this afternoon. His only hope is to try and get in amongst them at the start, you feel. When he was on a Ducati here, he's been inside Parc Fermé on a frequent basis, the 21-year-old Aussie. 3rd and 2nd in our 2020 double-header. 3rd he was here 2 years ago in 2022.
as Ducati's iron grip on this Red Bull ring continued. Honda, of course, on the long road back to the front in MotoGP. So many times they were close to the victory here with Marc Marquez. Different times for HRC as they try to drag themselves out of this tough period. A lot of rumours that maybe former Ducati and KTM tech guru Fabiano Sterlachini might be joining HRC next season. Let's get some thoughts from the man in the know, the boss, Alberto Pujo, joins Simon. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon. Yeah, I've got to say, it's a hot one too, guys. We're hiding in the shade in the canopy. It's proper warm at the moment. Alberto, this circuit, listening to your riders' debriefs like I do every night, seems slightly better, you know, more stop and go than the long turns. Can you give us your thoughts going into this afternoon's race?
Well, the circuit, it's not, let's say, super complicated. I mean, you have these straights, these stop and go corners, and apart from, I think, 5, 6, 7, 8, the rest is more or less. So I think the differences here are, let's say, a little bit less, but still there's a big difference.
So speaking about the differences, I understand you've got a slightly different engine spec to give throttle connection. Our riders seem happy about that. And basically, what I'd love to know is how you think our progress is starting to go. It's been a while since we had an update from you. It'd be great to get your feelings on progress at the moment and where it goes from here.
Well, it's true that we made some progress with the throttle connection. That affects some riders more than others. This is true, because, for example, Luca didn't feel so much different, but other riders felt different. But the way it looks like to be correct, and then, you know, we have another test soon to reconfirm, and then in Misano we will have let's say, the biggest step of the year till today, which will not only be, let's say, engine or aero, will be a full package difference. So, yeah, I mean, as I told you in the beginning, we are still not there clearly. We know the problems and we are trying to fix them, but we are behind.
You've answered my next question. I am really looking forward to seeing what comes at Misano, and now I really am. So, last question is Taka. He's been with you, HRC, in LCR for a long time now. I imagine he has a lot of experience, and there's talk now of maybe a young rider moving up from Moto2. How important do you think it is to have those experienced riders helping until you're back on top and it's really good for the young ones to move up, or do you look at it completely different?
Well, in this case, I don't know, because nothing is decided yet. But, I mean, Taka is a rider that has a lot of experience with our bike, and also he's very fast. True is that he has not been so lucky in the past years. He had some injuries, but always to have a Japanese rider with a high level is very good for the factory, because finally the communication in Japanese, let's say, is more understandable for them. And I think Taka has a clear understanding of the bike, and during all these years he helped a lot for the development of the bike. But also, on the other hand, it's true that you know, the Asia Talent Cup produced a lot of riders, and like, for example, Ogura now will sign for MotoGP with Aprilia, and they still have Chantra that in the future maybe can also join MotoGP. So, you know, it's a compromise, and yeah, finally Honda must think what will be the future of these people, but to have experienced riders beside young riders is always positive. And this is more or less in the situation where we are now, with the Asian riders.
Normally I was going to leave it there, but we haven't had a chance to hear from you since you signed or re-signed Joan Mir. I speak to Joan a lot. He doesn't live far from me. Intelligent guy, obviously fast. When, you know, I imagine the feedback is good. I'd like to hear from you why you re-signed Joan.
Well, we still believe that he could not show his true potential. We understand that our level is not the level, but we believe that when we can step up the bike performance, he can show a better performance than he's showing. True is that recently he's not being so lucky, and the results are not there at all. He knows, and we know, but he had a moment that he was thinking what to do. We were also thinking, we look at the market, we knew that he knew our system, our bike, so it had a sense to give him another chance to another period, another time to go with the bike again, let's say in a better performance conditions. That's what we hope.
Alberto, thank you for your time. Really appreciate, and good luck this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Alberto Puig. Interesting as always. Honda fans, it is very much a work in progress, and a work that sounds like it's going to bring a rather different RC213V to our upcoming post-race test in Misano. So potentially Honda arriving with a package that they've been using all their data and information collected so far this season into bringing what they hope will be the first shoot of recovery, because they are having a real tough period. Talking of tough periods, Marc Marquez is probably expecting a lot of contact, maybe in an aggressive first couple of laps in this upcoming 28-lap Grand Prix of Austria. He almost crashed at the back of the Gresini Racing garage. There was some real frantic work going on behind the scenes. A couple of his mechanics, I don't know if they were going maybe for some tyres or whatever, but they were clearly
in a rush,
bolting out the back of the garage and almost cleaned out Mark as he was walking. And I think it's okay. Rider okay, I think.
Yeah, Mark Mervyn, that's the last collision he has this afternoon. His brother didn't go very far in the Tito sprint yesterday. This was Alex going down at turn 2A on the very first lap. He's the rider just up ahead of us. This is Brett Binder who we're on board with here, and disappearing stage left was Alex Marquez, the first of two Gresini Ducatis to crash out of the Tito sprint yesterday. Alex Marquez goes from 11th on the grid this afternoon in the middle of that fourth row in between two factory KTMs.
As is tradition, as is always the feature on race day here, the organisers who do such a fantastic job here in Spielberg, got every single seat in this wonderful mountainous arena as a white or red flag, as we get ready for the Austrian national flag and the Austrian national anthem to be waved proudly. Marco Bezzecchi, unfortunately, on his lonesome inside the Pertamina Enduro VR46 Racing Team garage this weekend. Of course, the highs and lows of a Grand Prix motorcycle racer pre this Spielberg encounter. Fabio Di Gianantonio, dream territory for the Italian, signing a new 2-year contract direct with Ducati. And the big bonus, the big prize, he gets a GP25 alongside Pecco Bagnaia and Marc Marquez. That was the good news this weekend. Unfortunately for Digia, if you were with us earlier on this weekend, at turn 8 on Friday afternoon, a high-speed crash, dislocated his left shoulder, and unfortunately the Gianantonio ruled out of this Austrian Grand Prix weekend. Yesterday, Marco Bezzecchi found himself 8th at the checkered flag in the Tissot sprint. Just the second points that Bez has scored on Saturday so far this season. Kind of gives you an indication of how tough he's found life so far. As the boss watches on, great to have him here. Yeah, hi Valentino, he's still huge support. We've been driving outside the circuit, looking into the campsites. There's still so many 46 flags, so many bright yellow t-shirts. Of course, Rossi and Marquez, they, fair to say, had a few tasty battles down the years. Some of them right here at the Red Bull Ring as well.
Yeah, a journalist actually mischievously asked Marc Marquez on Thursday in the press conference, given that there was talk of a factory Ducati going to VR46, would you have ever perhaps thought of joining that team? And Marc Marquez was already grinning and laughing before he even answered the question, which I think gave you everything and every sort of answer you needed to know.
There's more chance of me signing for Valentino Rossi next year than that ever happening. more chance of me winning the lottery 4 weeks in a row to boot as well. Yeah, I think the unlikeliest scenario you could ever wish to contemplate in MotoGP World Championship. It did draw a few giggles inside the media centre as Pecco Bagnaia then comes to the grid for what he hopes will be another victory here in Spielberg, and he's used to them, isn't he? He keeps racking up the tally. He's led the last 83 of the 84 laps here in Spielberg. Start to finish victory in the 2022 Grand Prix, start to finish win in last year's Sprint and Grand Prix. Jorge Martin denied him a continuation of that incredible record when he led lap 1 here yesterday. The pace at the start of that sprint was red hot, it was electrifying. Fastest lap in the sprint from Bagnaia was just 2/10 slower than last year's pole time, which went the way of the Italian. He was the only rider in the sprint to do a lap in the 1:28. A quarter of a second he was faster than anybody else. Only 3 other riders in that sprint, Marc Marquez, Aleix Espargaro and Jorge Martin, got within 0.8 of a second at Bagnaia's best lap. Another astonishing performance from the reigning world champion, going for his 6th double win, possibly his 3rd in the last 5. He doubled up in Mugello, doubled up in Assen. And you've got to say, Lewis, he is the big pre-race favourite. We know how good he is around this Spielberg circuit. Its layout, its characteristics play to his strengths. Such a hard late breaker, great on corner entry. It certainly plays to the Ducati's strengths. There he is on the number 1 in the middle of your picture. He is going to take some beating.
He is looking for a 3rd consecutive Austrian Grand Prix and looking to equal his own record for victories in a MotoGP season. He took 7 wins last year. He could match that at round 11 of this 20-round World Championship this afternoon. You saw Jorge Martin, who we're now looking at, leaving pit lane without his left hand on the handlebars, in large part down to an injury that he sustained on Friday night here in Spielberg when he cut his left thumb in a pretty nasty way too. If you see the pictures on social media, I'd just advise you, if you're squeamish, to opt against looking at them. But Jorge Martin not in the best shape, it has to be said, and he said that really did cost him at the start of yesterday's Tito sprint. Of course, holding on to the bars with your left hand, so fundamental, so many different things you need to do with your left hand, including operating the ride height device. So Jorge Martin putting in that in small part down to him losing 2 places off the line yesterday in the sprint. Just how much of a factor will that be, not just at the start of this Austrian Grand Prix, but in the latter stages?
Danny Pedrosa having a cheeky little look at the factory Ducatis there. What have you spotted, Danny? Of course, KTM's long-serving test rider, as we see the riders come to the grid in the slowest possible way that they can. If you're wondering why all the riders are barely at walking pace to come to the grid for the 28-lap Grand Prix of Austria, of course, the stop-and-go nature, the constant braking followed immediately by full throttle high acceleration zones, means that fuel consumption, one of the most critical tracks for burning fuel, this Red Bull Ring circuit. That is the reason why the riders coming to the grid as slow as they possibly can. They probably, well, they won't be pushing as hard on the warm-ups as what they normally would do. Hard enough to sufficiently create some temperature in those Michelin tyres, but also wary as well about fuel consumption as Alex Marquez gets tucked in behind the bubble on the Gresini Ducati. I suppose the good thing about this Red Bull Ring circuit, Lewis, is a lot of it's downhill, so you can just literally cruise around. But fuel consumption, tyre wear, it's all to be factored in this 28-lap race coming up in what, about 20 minutes time. Well, Davide Tardozzi has been present. He's witnessed some of the best moments for Ducati here at the Spielberg circuit. Is another one lying in store for world champion Pecco Bagnaia as Ducati look to dominate once again here in Austria. Davide joins Simon.
He does. Davide, like always, need to catch up with you and hear about your riders. What are you expecting from today's race?
Yeah, the forecast is to see a tough fight between the first row guys. I think that those 3 will make the difference. There could be a huge surprise by the weather, because maybe in 1 hour can come a bit of rain, then we'll see what's going to happen. But in the end, I think that the front tire in a completely dry race will be the issue.
Okay, one other thought, and I'd like your thoughts on it is early on in that race, sprint race yesterday, Mark was struggling to hang on to the back of the GP24s, but then it looked like on more conservative fuel maps, Mark was closer. There's going to be, if I'm right, there's a longer period of that today. Is that why you think Mark will be in the fight?
Yeah, for sure. The fuel consumption is another issue. I mean, when Pecco see 1.6 second of advantage and Mark gain 0.3 seconds, is because Pecco was managing the advantage. So I think that Mark thought that he can try to win and make this mistake, but he's an incredible rider. He always want to win, so we can understand why this mistake.
Davide, as always, thank you for your thoughts. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Simon. Thanks to Davide Tardozzi. So then, crystal clear in terms of our tyre selection. Easy for us to keep on top of in the commentary box, Lewis. Everybody, all 24 riders, medium front, medium rear tyres. Davide Tardozzi alluded to there. It's how you manage that front tyre, particularly with the heavy braking zones and with the hard acceleration. Make sure you don't burn up the tyre with too much wheel spin. This feels like it's going to be a real strategic battle of tactics as well.
We did see a few riders run the medium rear yesterday in the Tissot Sprint. The KTMs all ran the medium rear, and so too did Marco Bezzecchi. And Bezzecchi thought that by running that medium rear in the sprint yesterday, he might find that to be something of an advantage this afternoon. Well, going from the second row, Aleix Espargaro described yesterday as one of his best ever Saturdays. Can he produce a Super Sunday here in Spielberg? His team manager Paolo Bonoras with Simon.
Paolo, Aleix saying from would have been Friday night, he was pretty sure that the tyre for him was the soft, and I just don't know if that's possible today in this heat. Can you talk about that and what you're expecting from your riders today?
Yeah, the soft today is not possible to use. The distance is so long, and the only possibility probably will be the medium on the rear. We struggle a bit with this tire because the soft helps us a lot in the braking area in particular, but we have found something to improve with since Friday, and we hope that they can stay in the slipstream of the front guys. To be fully honest, it will be difficult today.
Good luck.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Paolo Bonoras. Yeah, I think that's the understatement of the year, taking nothing away from Aleix Espargaro, because he rode his heart out. It was a brilliant, awesome ride to break up the Ducatis in the sprint yesterday, but over double the distance, 28 laps. You do fear that this could be yet another Ducati rout. 26 out of 30 Grand Prix podiums so far this season have gone the way of Ducati, and they're on a run of 71 successive races with at least one bike on the front row. They've had at least one bike on a podium the last 56 Grand Prix. It's fair to say Ducati are enjoying an unrivaled period of domination, aren't they, in the MotoGP World Championship. They won 8 out of 10 here at the Red Bull Ring, going for their 17th podium lockout, which would equal Honda in the MotoGP era. Can anybody stop the Dukes here in Spielberg?
Well, Pedro Acosta will have to go some if he's going to stop them. He goes from 14th on the grid. Such a good record here in the junior class. He's a winner here in Moto3 and very nearly a winner here in Moto2 last year too. But Acosta paying the price for a dramatic Friday when he had a high-speed crash at turn 4 in the morning. 3 crashes overall this weekend for Pedro Acosta, which put him on his back foot heading into qualifying. He goes from row 5.
Special memories here in Austria for Jorge Martin and Pramac Ducati. It was right here 3 years ago in 2021. The Martinator took his first MotoGP success. A win this afternoon will put him back at the top of the MotoGP World Championship. Riding through the pain barrier, let's get some thoughts of his team boss, Gino Borsoi, who joins Simon.
He does. Gino, we'd love to hear your thoughts about this longer race, you know, compared to yesterday. Different tyres, different strategies. Is Jorge as confident about today as yesterday?
Yeah, honestly speaking, we are quite confident. We had a really good pace with the medium rear. So with the medium, I think we are a bit better compared to yesterday on soft. we suffering a bit at the start. We had some small problem at the start yesterday. I hope today everything will be fixed because, as you can imagine, starting front, it's really important here in MotoGP. So let's see. I'm quite confident because, as I said before, everything more or less is under control. He liked the bike, the balance that we have. So let's see.
A quick word on Frankie Morbidelli. He also looks stronger this weekend, and I imagine if things go right, start, and no mistakes, he could do something as well.
Yes, it's true. He was stronger around all the weekend. So I'm pretty I'm pretty sure that he will make a really good race because also in pace is not really far away from Jorge. So we had some different strategy compared yesterday. We had some modifier on the setup, so maybe can help him.
Thank you and best of luck.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Simon. Thanks to Gino Borsoy from Pramac Ducati, soon to be Pramac Yamaha, of course. Yeah, yesterday we saw just how desperate both Bagnaia and Martin were to lead at the start of that sprint. 3 or 4 times they exchanged the lead on the first lap. Jorge Martin said just too optimistic going into the chicane. He knew how hard it would be on the front tyre in terms of temperature and pressure if he was stuck on Bagnaia's rear tyre. Of course, he had to serve the long lap penalty for the shortcut. So we'll be hoping he can get through a little bit tight. Look at that, what a shot that is. One of the best shots of the season, isn't it? As the fans pick up the red and white flags. We get to see the Austrian flag in all of its glory. I just wonder whether the boss, Dornacio Carlos Bletta, is continuing his tradition of donning the lederhosen. Of course, KTM have had some wonderful memories here on home turf. Brad Binder's victory in 2021, his last for the South African. Jack Miller was 5th in the sprint yesterday. Did KTM have anything for the Ducatis this afternoon? Let's hear from the boss, Francesco Guidotti, who's with Simon.
Yeah, it's exactly what I want to know. Do KTM have anything for the Ducatis this afternoon?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Yeah, it's noisy. What are you expecting from your boys this afternoon?
Yes, expectation is always high. So we go out for the podium at least, but then we know that will be really tough. We've seen yesterday the rhythm of the 2 guys in front is outstanding. So respect to them, but we will try to make their life a little bit more hard. And yeah, let's see. We need a good start, not like yesterday, to try to stay with them for a while, and then let's see. 28 laps, it's a lot, and also the heat make everything a little bit more difficult.
Can you give the listeners your thoughts on each rider? Jack has looked really good all this weekend, and great result yesterday. And Brad was a bit tougher, but I was looking at his pace end of the race, really good. And this one's longer.
Yeah, I think for Jack it's always has been always a friendly track, this one, and also our bike does his job. So yeah, I expect a very good result after the Friday and the Saturday we had. Brad, starting grid is not the best to hope for a super good result. But yeah, yesterday we saw that he can recover. He can recover many positions, and with more laps he would try even more. So let's see. Paul is in super good shape after 2 tests here. The bike is promising. So yeah, I mean it's a nice at least will be a nice test.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Francesco Guidotti from KTM. Yeah, I guess we heard it there from the horse's mouth. Can they just try and make it slightly harder for the dominant Ducatis to win here today, as the parachutists from Red Bull are about to drop into this Spielberg circuit. Davide Tardozzi, of course, speaking to Simon a few moments ago. Ducati's somewhat sophisticated weather predicting system, certainly better than my apps on my phone. He said, didn't he, maybe in about an hour's time, so what, around 2:30, maybe a little bit later, there is the threat of some rain lashing down on this Spielberg circuit. Are we going to get more flag-to-flag drama like we saw here in 2021? Maybe there's a late front tyre change as well as the temperature creeps up. Marc Marquez, we believe, medium front was his plan to start this race. It may just be a new medium that they're bringing in for his Gresini Ducati GP23. But let's keep a close eye on whether there has been an 11th hour change of heart for Marc in terms of that front tyre pick.
You saw the quote on screen there from Jorge Martin explaining exactly why that thumb injury could be a problem for him this afternoon. So that wasn't a problem for him in qualifying yesterday. That 1:27.748, the fastest ever lap we've seen here at the Red Bull Ring. Pecco Bagnaia produced a 27.8 himself, which was an absolutely explosive lap, and surely would have thought when he saw that on his dashboard that he was going to take pole position. Jorge Martin had other ideas.
Keeping himself as cool as he possibly can on the grid. Well, he was certainly ice cool yesterday, wasn't he, in the sprint at Espargaro? What a performance that was. On the floor twice in the first 15 minutes of the weekend in FP1. Last he was 25th. And then the opening practice session, it has been some fight back by the 35-year-old. He said himself, probably his best Saturday of his Grand Prix career as Marc Marquez's crew chief Frankie Carcetti fights his way through what's a very busy grid here at the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg. As we take a pause for the Austrian national anthem.
Well, that was quite a spin on the Austrian national anthem, wasn't it, from Granada. Thanks for their contribution. Part of the build-up to this Austrian Grand Prix. The aerobatics and the pyrotechnics are about to continue. Wonderful atmosphere building ahead of this Austrian Grand Prix. The fans are about to have their eyes on the skies. I think they're going to have their eyes on the skies during this Grand Prix as well, certainly if Davide Tardozzi is to be believed. If you're Pecco Bagnaia or Jorge Martin, you just want a clean, dry race because they clearly have the superior pace along with Marc Marquez. If you're outside of that top three, you might potentially see some rain on the horizon and think of it as a massive opportunity.
Yeah, there's been some rather frantic scenes down on the grid involving Gresini Racing. There is Marc Marquez having still discussions, conversations with his crew chief on the left there. Frankie Carcetti just coming into your picture. He's one of Michelin's dedicated technicians. And Simon just telling us down on the grid. It's obviously pretty tense down there. McKay Massini, Gresini Racing boss, who always obliges, always helps us out with a pre-race chat on the grid. But Michele just politely declining. It just gives you a sense of the pressure, of the tension, this pressure cooker atmosphere that's building down on the grid ahead of this 28-lap Grand Prix of Austria. What a show this is. What a way to bring the Austrian national flag to the Austrian Grand Prix. KTM's home round. Jack Miller just getting some late words of encouragement, keeping himself cool and in the shade. Can he step out of the shadows of the Ducatis here and return KTM to the top step of the podium? It seems like it is a big ask. It's like Shaq's getting a few fans trying to grab some very late selfies. That is cutting it fine for a selfie, isn't it?
Never a better opportunity, I suppose, but Jack Miller trying to get himself in the zone down there.
He can't exactly run off, can he?
True.
So here we get then the arrival of the Austrian national flag. Great job by the parachute team. Now you can see the world-renowned, the world-famous Red Bull that stands proud 18 metres high right in the heart of this Spielberg circuit. First built in 1969 as the Österreich-Ring, renamed as the A1 Ring and reopened as the Red Bull Ring back in 2011. Since we came back here 8 years ago, aside from a couple of memorable wins for KTM, this has been Ducati domain. Some shot. Love the pre-race atmosphere, the pre-race build-up here in Austria. Fair to say, a Red Bull, they certainly know how to put on a party, put on a show, don't they? Look at that. That is on the big main grandstand overlooking the exit of turn 1. They've got a great view, vantage point of the chicane there as well. Up the half-braking zone into turn 3. And they have already got the party started. But who will be celebrating in what, about 45 minutes time? Maverick Vinales looking rather pensive. A tough sprint yesterday for the Spaniard. 11th place at the checkered flag. The first time the 29-year-old Spaniard has finished outside of the sprint points since the Malaysian Grand Prix in Sepang last year.
It was Eminem's Lose Yourself that you could hear in the background. Maverick Vinales was the one that was seemingly lost without trace yesterday. Qualified down in 8th place before finishing so far down the order, qualified in 6th, beg your pardon, before finishing so far down the order in the end in 11th place. And it was a measure of how good Aleix Espargaro was yesterday, actually, to give him the credit where the other Aprilias were in the sprint. Aleix Espargaro managed to come to the end of that 14-lap sprint just 7.5 seconds behind Pecco Bagnaia. The next Aprilia in the race was 16 seconds back. That was Maverick Vinales. This is not a strong circuit for Aprilia, which has been sort of borne out by what the majority of the RSGPs have been doing. Aleix has really been the outlier, and he had a shocking Friday, to be fair.
Marco Bezzecchi, a 3-time winner in the smaller classes here in Spielberg. The 25-year-old Italian, he would love to be in the victory hunt once again. Front row of the grid then, 3rd place. Fires away Gresini Racing's Marc Marquez. Is today the day that he tastes some race-winning Prosecco for the first time on a Ducati? Big ask on that year-old GP23 as the BMW safety car peels away at the front. Hard to believe, isn't it, at the moment, as we're about to get it lights out under blazing sunshine and glorious sunny skies, that there is the threat of rain potentially in around 30 to 45 minutes time. But that just gives an indication of how quickly the conditions and the weather can roll in on the Styria Mountains. There were some spectacular thunderstorms here last night. A lightning show, thunder. Who's going to bring the thunder to this Austrian Grand Prix? Marc Marquez then, on the front row of the grid. 1,029 days since his last Grand Prix victory. Pecco Bagnaia has been the king of the Red Bull Ring in MotoGP of late. Can Jorge Martin win once again, though, here in Spielberg and take the lead back in the MotoGP World Championship?